at the Medieval Color Legacy Challenge, but we're actually going to be building our next lot for Yellow Jen. So Yellow Jen has to leave the home provided to them by the Lord of the Manor, and they have to kind of survive on their own. So they have settled on a lot near a priory. It's kind of an old established priory, but an old market has really begun to kind of build up a little town around it. You can see here there's now buildings where before it was just kind of like an unofficial market. So they've decided to build their new life here. There's kind of an old barn there, but for the most part it's pretty barren, and they're going to be starting from the ground up. And I've kind of been thinking how I want to do this, if I want them to literally move into an empty lot with nothing, or if I want them to kind of move into an already built house, or maybe something in between. And so what I've decided to do is kind of in between. So they're going to have a little bit of a house going on, but it's going to be very, very basic, and they're going to have to build their home from there. So we want to keep the price down because they don't have a lot of funds, and we need to make sure that we purchase everything we need for the next generation, because Yellow Jen has to run a home business, and they either have to have poultry, pigs, or goats. Right now I'm leaning towards possibly poultry, and then maybe getting some like wild boar. Like maybe they have a license from the bishop over there to like have boar from the woods, but then those are wild and they can, I don't know, I'm not completely decided yet. The next part is just going to be me speed building in silence, but I wanted to do a little bit of an intro to explain where they've settled at. And just know this market town doesn't really have a name, neither does where the bishop is. I'll probably give it a name just for funsies, but this is kind of their next stop, their family journey, is this little market town. So let's get to building. Alrighty, so we are building the new Devereaux family home. It goes through quite a few iterations, but for the most part I decided it was going to be a 2-story home with like an open barn area on the lower floor that can later be closed in, but for now it's kind of open. They are not going to be having pigs or goats just yet, but they will have poultry, and the goal is to, tentatively I'm saying, once they hit a level 10 business, then they can get like a pig or something like that, because it'll be a lot better off. Thank you, Judy, for immediately starting to play with your rope. Judy says hello. But yeah, I don't want them to start off with too much. Like, since they had the 50k, like, I feel like they were able to save a little bit of money for themselves once they got loose. And this isn't following, like, real-life medieval rules, so basically they were able to move into an abandoned home without having to pay for it, is how I'm kind of spinning things. Like, this place was like a homestead of some kind. People who live there don't live here anymore, so it was a little abandoned, but they fixed it up. They're allowed to live here because the bishop doesn't really care. They would rather the property be taken care of than abandoned and whatnot. So yeah, I was just trying to build out some like fenced areas. Wanted a special area that only the family could go for their garden. But also, since I know we were running a business, I really try to like fence off a lot of areas that are family only, just because Sims can be a bit pesky sometimes. I do plan on creating a whole bunch of like townies. They're not really going to be townies, I'm just going to plunk them down in a lot, but they're mostly going to be marriage options for, you know, our next gen, because none of the kids actually have a romantic partner at this point. Coraline is a teenager, Henry with an I is a teenager, Jean-Paul is a teenager, Cosette is, you know, a little girl, but, you know, eventually she's going to need somebody to marry as well. And even though we haven't picked out who our heir will be, I'm not sure. Right now my posting schedule, tentatively, the 4th of February a video is going to go out, and at that point I'm probably not going to have the heir picked out just because I've got to let the poll run for a little bit longer, but after that point I would like to go ahead and figure out who's going to be the heir with your guys' help and the poll, but we're gonna see who is the most popular. I have a favorite, but I really enjoy all of them, so I'm not saying who my favorite is because I will let the viewers decide. So yeah, I wanted to do an outside staircase after I realized how small that one room was. So I was like, alright, we're gonna need to have 2 sets of stairs to get in here, just because I've said it multiple times while building, I don't like building Sims 2 homes that only have one way up. Like, it just causes too many routing issues and it drives me insane. So I always have at least 2 sets of stairs. I'm trying to get the layout for the upstairs. I actually leave it pretty open, which I'm sure the kiddos aren't gonna necessarily enjoy, but I wanted to leave it pretty open. You'll notice I'm not making everything yellow because I looked through my CC and I really don't have a lot of yellow like walls and things that would be appropriate for their station. Maybe they could over time upgrade and get some kind of yellowy things, but for now most of the yellow is probably going to be coming from the furniture and their clothing, which I'm super excited to give everybody a makeover. Like, so pumped to not see everybody in brown. I don't mind it, but at the same time I'm like, I would like some different colors now, please. I get spoiled because I jump from this play back to Adiran and everybody's wearing fancy clothes in Adiran, and I'm just like, but I didn't put, you can see lots of flooring tiles down. I actually just did terrain paint, which is going to lower the environment score, but I don't care. Like, it's for the aesthetic, and also they wouldn't have probably been able to afford a floor at the time. It's very likely if this building, whoever lived there originally, did have stone floors, somebody robbed out the stone after they left, because of course they would. I really do like, I decorated the neighborhood like really quickly, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I like seeing everything in the background. You'll see I was gonna put a pond down because they've all been fishing, but I really don't want them to be making their money from fishing, so I decided there's not gonna be a pond. There might be a local pond that they can go to, just as like a last resort, hey, we need food. You can see, like, I was trying to get yellow toned woods, but again, like, that one chair is just too fancy, and just yellow is actually, I didn't have problems with yellow before. I know that I had problems with the 3rd generation, which is pink, but I did this time. I struggled a lot with yellow, and I think it's just because I was being so particular. Technically, their living room is this big open space here. It's also going to be a bedroom for all of the kids. In retrospect, I did forget to add a couple things because I've decided for this generation, this was after I built it, but they're not going to be able to buy furniture from the buy mode catalog at all. That's going to be another restriction that's placed on them now that they are living on their own. Buy mode was kind of things that were provided by the Lord of the Manor, and well, he doesn't exist anymore. So there will be a weekly market that I'll probably just have owned by an NPC where they can go and buy things. They'll only be able to go there once a week, and obviously if they don't have the money for things, they're not going to be able to buy it. You can see here I'm messing around with just like the layout because I really wanted beds, like a lot of sleeping spaces for all the kids, but just like keeping in mind that, you know, there's gonna be more kids in the future as well. I think the only thing I forgot to put in was like a crib type thing, but I will go in before they start and add that item because I don't want them to have to not have one right away. I also did lots of like mixing and matching, kind of like these are things that they cobble together or maybe given to them, because the church is there, so you can get some things from the church, but they aren't giving things out for free kind of things. I see it more as the bishop going, hey, you know, I want you to settle here. You know, there's an old bed that's on the house, but here's maybe a wicker mat and some old chairs we don't need anymore. I really do like how it turned out. Like, it's been a minute since I've I actually originally built this, I think, a week and a half ago, and I haven't had time to record. And I was struggling a lot. Like, I forgot the outhouse, I forgot a lot of things, like, as I was building, like, oh yeah, they're probably gonna need that. I really want to do the shower, but it just looks weird as an object. I mean, I could put move objects on and like, or bull prop, just make it so it doesn't snap to grid, but eh. I did make this little building kind of yellowy-ish, vaguely. It's like my one, it's like I have to have some yellow. Like I said, the furniture will be yellow as well. I'll recolor the beds later on. I was just kind of placing things just so that I knew where they would go. They do have kind of an indoor bathroom, kind of. You know, you'll see it's a bucket and just a tub, and that's just a concession to there's too many Sims to have one bathroom, and it's no. Wanted to make sure that they had the little water thing as well. God, I really was jumping all around when I was decorating. It happens. They will have fireplaces too. I'm going to be sticking with my rule of they have to keep the fires going during the winter, but now, since they can't buy wood from buy mode, I will have like a little tiny bit. Since this is meant to be a market town, there'll be like a market set up where there'll be basic things. Just because I know I talked about it before, I don't remember when, but if you have issues where like you're having jump bugs and you have to reset things on the lot, it resets the growable trees and then they take forever to grow back, and it's not enjoyable for me to manage them growing trees for firewood. It makes sense that they wouldn't do that because they're doing other things. They would just buy it. Maybe. I don't know. It's not enjoyable to make them do that for me, so I'm not gonna do it because at the end of the day, this needs to be fun. It's fun to make them go through all the other stuff though, which they're definitely going to do. They're gonna start off with just kind of like a little shanty set up in their yard. Nothing fancy, nothing really super matchy. I was gonna put a covering over it, and then I'm like, no, they don't get that either. This is just literally the most basic setup you can have. They are going to have chickens, and eventually I would like them to get a pig, and that's going to start them off like their next generation is going to be livestock. Maybe a goat, I don't know, but I had a kind of pigs in mind, but we'll see. I can't remember off the top of my head how many peasant generations we actually have. I think it's 3, it might be 4, and then we'll kind of be moving up class-wise, but each peasant generation is designed to be like very different from one another. So Brown Gen, for example, was actually indentured servants, so there were some perks to that you wouldn't really think about, but obviously they weren't free. If they'd stayed indentured much longer, they would have been assigned a spouse rather than getting to pick their own spouse. Just things like that. Like, I want positives and negatives, and I want them all to feel very different. So Brown Gen, they were all literate, whereas Yellow Gen, no one's going to school. Like, Cosette actually is not going to be considered literate in my game. For my personal rules, like, she did not go to school until she was a teen. She's gonna know probably basic things, but she's not gonna be considered a literate sim, so she will not be able to read, which is a problem for skilling, but everyone else is going to get the literate trait because they all would have been educated at that point. I'm trying to remember, like, little objects here you can see me going through, because fun is definitely a problem with this type of challenge, especially with the Sims that I have that are all romance pleasure Sims that just want to ruin my day. So yeah, I did put the troughs down, but that was when I was still toying with the idea of letting them have like some type of livestock right away. I'm not going to let them, but I probably will just leave those there because they could have been on the property when they moved in. Got a little laundry tub. It is not part of the functional laundry set. I don't quite want to make myself suffer that much. It's too much to keep track of at this point in time. Yeah, I am decorating like they're gonna have pigs. They're not. They're gonna have chickens. I gave them a decent amount of chickens too, just because they're going to sell, like, they're gonna raise some of the chickens, but they're also mostly just gonna sell eggs. And I just wanted, like, a variety. It took me forever to find the brood box, though. I always forget that it's not where I think it is, so I was, like, looking, and I deleted the collections folder because I was having a moment and deleted a lot of the collections folders for whatever reason. So I think I actually pause and then go and find it. So there might be a jump. I don't quite remember. And I will fix that fence that has a hole in it and put a proper actual gate there. I didn't notice it because it's like right in the corner, but I'm noticing it in the recording and I remember noticing it then. So we will fix that. Let me know what you guys think of the house though. Like, is it okay that it's really not decorated in yellow tones just because I didn't have much to work with? I did, like, the counters have like a yellowy cloth on them. I tried, but it wasn't super feasible. And also what you think about them basically not being allowed to have anything really other than chickens and having to like work their way up to that. If you have any ideas for rules, because right now Yellow Generation's not set in stone. I listed it in the last video, but they basically just have to earn 100,000 simoleons, have 2 children, same rules with growing their own food and paying family funds to the crown. I might actually increase that amount just because now part of that is not being paid by like the Lord of the Manor kind of thing, so maybe they have to pay more. The oldest child is going to be the heir, so whoever is our heir for Yellow Gen, their oldest child will be the Pink Gen heir, so we have to keep that in mind. The home business has to reach level 10 before they can have any type of livestock, so they have to reach that, and then they can buy a community lot to run that. To get married, they have to save 5,000 simoleons, and it will be paid as like a license fee, so they will lose those funds. They're not allowed to read unless they're literate, so any Sims that marry into the family, since they will be of a class where they were not educated, they will be illiterate. And they also don't get to go to school, so they're going to be home all the time. I'm toying with a couple other ideas, especially like the optional kind of things that people can do, but they are not necessary for the challenge. It's just more things that I was personally doing because I felt it to be fun, but it wasn't necessary for the spirit of the challenge. You'll notice there isn't a lot of rules for like motives and things like that, like however you want to play. I'm not going to judge you. I did some motive cheats sometimes, or some school cheats, because I was just like, this is not relevant to the challenge, and I don't want them to get taken away. Probably could have installed the mod that won't let them get taken away by the social worker, but meh. See, I fixed the fence. I fixed it. And I put a gate, because I was going to leave it open, and then I was like, you can't leave it open, because then the townies will be in your yard. We're just about done, though. It's, like I said, it's pretty bare bones. All of it's very mismatched, and that was intentional because their stuff isn't going to match. Like, they're just cobbling together whatever they can to use in their home in hopes of making life for themselves. To that end, I also didn't put a lot of deco like I normally would. A, because they didn't have the funds, but B, it just didn't feel appropriate. Yes, I could put like ropes in the ground or boards or things like that, but it will inflate like how much their lot is worth, and I just didn't want to do that, so that's why I didn't over-decorate here. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to put a couple deco items down, but otherwise, this is going to be our lot. This is where we're going to be working off. You see, I did put a well as well, like on the corner, a well as well. I'm not sure I like that there. I might do a community well instead. But let me know what you guys think. If you're excited for the next gen, who you think that should be our yellow heir. Should be Coraline, Henry with an I, or Jean-Paul. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, which will be episode 1 of the Yellow Gen. Oh, I probably also should tell you to like and subscribe and things too, but do what you want.